Hello and welcome back. This is the fourth lesson in creating a successful day camp during the summertime for extra income and for quality care for kids and families. So I hope you got a good start in the last three lessons on planning where you'll hold your camp, who will help you, what your theme is, the activities. I hope you feel better from the last lesson about liability and have a plan for addressing that. In this lesson, we're going to talk about making your camp a success year after year so that kids want to come back and parents feel good about where they're sending their children. We're going to talk about how to fill your camp, and we're going to give you some strategies for that. First thing is we're going to create a budget. We're going to ask ourselves, how many campers can we safely host in the space that you've chosen? And let's be realistic about this. If it's in your home, in your backyard, or in a smaller space, you're going to need to cut down the numbers. That may also mean you don't need as many helpers, and so that may help with your budget. But be realistic about the number of kids that you can host successfully. You're going to ask how many counselors you need to run all the activities. So are you going to have stations? Are you going to have rotations? Are you going to have different classes? And do those require different teachers? And how much do 3-day camps cost? How much do week-long camps cost? How much do half-day camps cost in your area? You need to get at least 3 comparative prices so that you can kind of come in on the low end. And you're going to ask how much you'll need to spend on materials. I always spend a lot more money on the first week of camp, and then I can reuse some of those materials throughout the rest of camp. So that number may fluctuate if you do more than one camp during the summer. My budget for camp is to have 8 to 9 children per group. We have 2 counselors beside myself in every camp, and so that's 27 campers in each session of the camps, and that's $150 a camper. $150 may sound extremely reasonable to you or extremely low to you depending on where you live. If you live on the East Coast or the West Coast, I'm betting you could never find a day camp for under $300. So that's why you need to find comparative prices in your area and compare, and then come in on the low end when you're starting. So I do $2,700 a camp times 4 camps in a month, and that brings in $12,800 per month. Now I have to pay my counselors. I pay them $400 each a week, which is $800. My materials at the beginning of camp are $600. I reuse a lot of things during the next 3 camps, so they're lower. So I'd say on average, I probably come out lower than $600, but I wanted to just throw that in there to give you an idea. So my total after paying counselors and materials is about $1,400 per camp, and that means I bring in $5,600 in a month, which lets us pay for our fall programming at the nonprofit. We're going to talk a little bit about how you fill your camp. You really want to count on numbers. You don't want to have a more expensive camp that only has a few people in it. You want to count on numbers. So how do we do that? We're going to talk about Facebook, using Facebook. You're going to start a business page. I would recommend this over starting a complete website for your camp. You can always build a website later, but just start a business Facebook page, and they'll be in the added resources instructions on how to do that if you're not sure. And you're going to use that business Facebook page to run ads, targeted ads to your area, to parents with children in your age range. You can target Facebook that closely. So you're going to choose the demographic of parents of preschoolers or parents of school-age children or parents of middle schoolers. And you're going to target your town and then 30 miles, or your area and then 30 miles, a radius of that. And that'll give you a really good reach for a very inexpensive price. Facebook, I usually take the cost of one registration for the whole summer, so $150, and I run Facebook ads with that. And so the cost of one registration is covered with my ads, and those fill. The other idea is to send out flyers to schools. When we were first starting, preschools would let us put, preschools with children who were entering kindergarten would let us put flyers in the backpacks of all the kids. You can also ask other camps that are full to send their waiting list kids to you. You could ask them to send out a notice. I have waiting list every summer, and I hate to turn parents and families away. So I would love it if somebody would say, hey, if you have any extra kids that you don't have room for, would you mind sending them my way? I'd be very happy to do that. The other thing is to host an open house day so that parents and campers can meet you, can see your space. we do this every spring with a kids fair, and it's very easy. The kids run all the booths. They either make crafts or food or games, and they love it because they keep their money. And the parents come out and they see the space and they meet us, and there are a lot of previous campers there as well. So it's a really good way to let people feel comfortable, to get to know you, and to fill your camps. You have camper registration packets on site, or if it's just an application, you don't have to have a packet, but you have those on site and ready to fill out and take and hold spaces for the summer. And then putting out enrollment early and pricing it competitively. We talked about pricing. When you get those comparative prices, when you're starting out, either go below or at the bottom end of those prices. You can always build up later, but you want to fill spots. Every empty spot costs you a lot of money. You'd rather fill with a less costly registration than have empty spots. And then if you put out enrollment early, parents are trying to fill the entire summer with camps to cover daycare for their children. A lot of parents use camp after camp after camp to provide daycare while they're still working. And so the earlier you get yours out, the better. I usually don't release mine until March, and I have parents calling me as early as January asking, when is the registration going to open? You're going to build your list each year, so keep emails and give an early discount to people who are returning members. If you put an email out to all your campers from this year and say, hey, anybody who signs up by the end of the month gets a 10% discounts. Give discounts to siblings. And do early registration for return campers. You can give also feedback forms to parents at the end of every camp, and I highly recommend that, and we're going to have a sample in the resource section that shows you some ideas, and you're going to create your own. But it gives you testimonials that you can use the next year to recruit. And then also giving referral discounts. When children come, they'll oftentimes bring a friend. So one of the ways to create success is to create mentors. These are some great little pictures of big kids helping little kids. And they really will. They'll do it on their own to some extent, but they'll really do it if you make a big deal of it. Every day at lunch, I recognize mentors that I see at the camp. It makes kids feel proud. It makes them feel like they've done something worthwhile. And it also helps. It's a big help to have big kids looking out for little kids. I split my kids into groups by age. Like I said, we usually have 3 groups. And then the first day, we line up from the very youngest to the very oldest in a huge long line. And the kids have to figure out this birthdays and months. And it's funny, little kids can't do it at all. And so naturally, the big kids have to help them. And so the first 8 go into a group, the second 8 go into a group, and the top 8 go into a group. And the first thing they do is name their groups, and they love naming the groups. And so for the rest of that week or the rest of that camp, we'll say, okay, the Bears are in rotation 2 up in the kitchen, and the Wolverines are in sports. So they know where to go and they know who their group is. But letting the kids interact among groups so that you build these mentors is really important. And we do that at break time and lunchtime. And it is a really significant growth that you see in kids. It's also a really good way if you have a kid who's a little bit of trouble to give them a job of taking care of a younger kid. The other thing that we do that I'm very passionate about is making sure that no child is left out. Nobody wants to come to camp and have no friends and sit on the sideline. And I've always been amazed when I was a teacher that teachers don't pay more attention to this. There's always going to be a kid that is shy or doesn't fit in with the big group, and it's so simple to give them a buddy, to assign them somebody. You always pick your loudest, most outgoing kid, and you say, you know what, you have a job this week. Your job is to make sure so-and-so is included all week long. And these are the things that make a quality camp. These are the things that make all kids want to come back, feel welcome and not afraid and part of the group. The last thing I want to talk about is to make sure that your activities are age appropriate. I was really frustrated. We sent our kids down to this, what sounded like an amazing sea camp one year. And it was on the coast, and I thought they would be out catching fish and looking in the swamps and, talking about sea plants and looking at live plants. And they came home each day with a picture of a colored fish. That is not age appropriate, and nor is it engaging or challenging. It was really disappointing. They played a lot of games that had to do with sea life, but they didn't actually do challenging activities. And the activities weren't varied. They were pretty much the same day after day. So you can see that little boy holding a chicken. He's afraid. He was very scared to hold that chicken, but there's another kid helping him, comforting him. These boys in the middle are pushing a piece of concrete and block out of the way that was probably a safety hazard, and I encouraged them to do that. They said, we can do it on our own. You don't need to help us. And they were very proud of themselves. Again, challenges. Kids like challenges. And fun. That's cooking in the last picture. Those children aren't going to make something that they make every day for dinner. They're going to make something interesting. They're going to make something challenging. And they're going to make something that's fun. So if you keep those things in mind, then your camp will fill year after year. If you really do a good job planning, if your games are good, if your activities are good, if you slack on those things, you're not going to have return campers. If you put a lot of effort into your planning, into your activities, then every year those kids and families will be back, and their siblings will be back, and their neighbors will be back. And that's how you grow a great program year after year. And that's how you can start to raise your prices year after year and expand the income that you're bringing in. I don't ever want to make it where families can't afford the camps, but it's a lot of work. And if you are rewarded adequately for that work, it's a win-win all the way around. I hope your camp goes well, and I look forward to seeing your completed plans. Thank you very much.